Hi, we're from Pomona High School, and we are going to be discussing the poem The Eolian Harp by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And first, I think it would be nice to discuss the story of the poem, just like we did with Cut by Sylvia Plath, because it's a very simple story, but I think we need to know what is happening before we can actually start digging in. So what's happening?
The man is on a date.
The man is on a date.
Yeah, and he has a revelation about like things that are going on around him, and it like turns into this big thing that it shouldn't be, I guess.
Yeah, that's the simple plot, right? He's out with his girl named Sarah, right? And they're in this very idyllic place, right? And it's just perfect. The mood is just right. Everything's good. So in that first stanza, we get a lot of different images going on. We get the scents from the bean field. Yeah, bean field scents, right? I think that that Coleridge is trying to compare this to another thing. He's trying to make an illusion, right?
I think he's making an allusion to the Garden of Eden because everything is ideal and in a line it mentions the stilly murmur of the distant sea tells us of silence. It's talking about how quiet and peaceful it is.
Yep. What else in that first stanza connects us to an Eden-like experience?
It says, slowly saddening round and mark the star of Eve, as in like Adam and Eve.
Okay, yep. It also, what would be the star of evening? Like Eve as in sun's going down and the moon maybe, all right? Kyle, what else in this stanza?
I'm not really sure.
What do you think about line 4 with white-flowered jasmine and broad-leaved myrtle?
Well, I think it's kind of unusual how he capitalizes jasmine and myrtle with the sentence next to it with meets emblems, they of innocence and love.
So which one's innocence, which one's love?
I'm assuming it goes in the same order.
I would assume as well.
So jasmine, innocence, myrtle, love.
Yeah. But there is definitely all this Eden-like imagery. Let's go into the second stanza, though, right? So now we get the lute, or the Eolian harp, right?
So,
what is an Eolian harp? Emily, what's an Eolian harp? No.
It's like a wind chime.
It is like a wind chime. And it has strings across a box, and the wind goes through them and plays some sort of melody, like wind chimes, right? So we have this lute, and he starts comparing the lute to several different things, right? What's the first thing he compares the lute to?
A coy maiden half yielding to her love.
Yes, how by the desultory breeze caressed like some coy maid half yielding to her. What is coy?
It's like not really like shy, but like kind of like a cross between like shy and seductive almost.
Okay, Alicia, what do you think? Coy?
I don't know.
Like a coy maid half yielding to her lover.
I thought it kind of meant quiet and still.
Okay, quiet. What?
Silence.
Okay. Have you ever been coy, Alicia?
Yeah, almost like playful.
Yes, like teasing, right? Like teasing. And like you're like, you want the guy to come, but then you're like, I don't know. Like you're doing this whole back and forth, right? I have never, you know what I mean, right? And so in this metaphor, though, the breeze is
Coy.
Is the breeze coy or is the lute coy?
the lute is
The
coy.
The lute is coy. So the breeze would be
Man.
the man in the relationship, right? So the desultory breeze is caressing the Eolian harp like a coy maid, and it's like this back and forth, like they're teasing each other, right? So it makes me imagine like the notes kind of come in for a while and then they go away, and it's like this almost teasing sort of thing. What's the other thing that we compare the lute to in this passage?
The sound as twilight elfins make.
Yes, such a soft, floating witchery of sound as twilight elfins make when they at eve voyage on gentle gales from fairyland. What's an elfin?
An elf.
An elf.
Fairy.
Yes, like a fairy. And like, what kind of songs would they sing? Elf songs.
I guess haunting and quaint.
Okay.
Twinkly.
They'd very nature oriented.
Okay.
Like Christmas songs.
Christmas songs, you're thinking about like the elves and Santa. I think more like elves, like Lord of the Ring elves, right? And I think that the word above, where it says such a soft floating witchery of sound, talk to me about witchery.
Well, I don't really like the sound of witchery. It kind of doesn't go with the desultory breezed caress at all. It kind of has a juxtaposition to what he's trying to give from the lute.
So what are you getting out of witchery?
Like something...
Like evil?
Evil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other ideas for witchery?
I get a negative connotation from witchery because if you ever see movies with witches, the witches are usually, except Wizard of Oz, there's a good witch, but other than that, witches are usually the bad guy.
Okay.
I don't particularly get like a negative or a positive connotation. I get kind of more of like a mystic sort of, I guess, impression. Like soft floating witchery. It makes me kind of envision like twinkling lights amongst a forest or something like that. Like,
So those twinkling lights,
they're like softly moving about, like, I don't know, like something more soft, like it says, not
Right.
particularly.
Drew?
Could the word be used to replace mischief? Maybe kind of a like soft trickery kind of thing, like
Okay.
going off the whole playful vibe.
Like going along, like maybe with the trickery, like maybe I kind of got the feeling that it was like trying to like influence him or convince him to do something.
Influence, yeah. So I look at it as more like bewitching, right? Like you are bewitched, you're under a spell, right? So this sound has entrapped him, and he's like, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful, this whole thing. So let's go to stanza 3. He starts talking about another time when he had a really great day and something similar happened to him as this day when he's on this date with Sarah, right? He says, and thus, my love, as on a midway slope of yonder hill I stretch my limbs at noon, whilst through my half-closed eyelids I behold the sunbeams dance like diamonds on the main and tranquil muse upon tranquility. So what was his other perfect day?
He napped somewhere.
Yeah, he took a nap. Isn't that all of our? And while he was taking his nap, his eyelids are like half closed. And what does he see, Emily?
He sees the sunbeams
Mm-hmm.
like dance like diamonds, and then he feels this tranquility.
Yeah, on the main. What's the main?
Like the water.
The sea, right? The main, right? And then he says, and tranquil muse upon tranquility. That is the most difficult line in this entire poem, because I think we have to identify what the word muse is, because there's two possibilities. So let's talk about the word muse.
Inspiration.
Yeah, like
Muses
the
are
muse.
inspiration.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I hear muse.
Does it muse have to do with music too?
Yeah, like you can have a muse, that's where we get the word music, right? And so the muse can help you and inspire you to do something. What's the other possibility for muse?
Isn't it like when you're musing about something,
Yes,
like thinking on
you're
it?
like thinking very deeply about something. So I don't know which muse Coleridge is using in this instance. And I'd like us to talk about both possibilities, right? So he says, and tranquil muse upon tranquility. So what muse do we think Coleridge is using?
I thought the inspiration.
Okay.
Because I guess he's.
So it's
kind
a tranquil muse.
Yeah.
All right.
Like he's being inspired by the tranquility of the situation and the way that he saw the light of the sun dance across the water like diamonds.
Is his muse.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's his
I
muse.
think it's the other one. I think it's thinking deeply, because when you're tranquil, I feel like you're like in this state of mind where you just think about everything.
Okay. And so he
That's
is
why I think it's-
tranquil thinking upon tranquility. So he's
Yeah.
like being really quiet and thinking about being quiet. Alicia,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Courtney, because I think all of the lines leading up to it
Okay.
kind of like showed how like deeply he was observing and thinking.
All right. Chris?
I think he's like in deep thought of something, because I don't know. I kind of picture him like think about meditating,
Yeah.
and you don't even know you're thinking about it, and
Mhm.
I think that he doesn't even know what he's really thinking about.
Yeah, and
he's just like
Both of these instances, he is deep in thought, right? He has the date with Sarah and then him taking a nap, and he's just thinking about everything in life, right? So then in the next stanza, we get his thesis statement, right? In stanza 4, we get his thesis, okay? So the thesis is this, and then we'll talk about it. This is a very difficult stanza. So it says, "And what if all of animated nature be but organic harps, diversely framed, that tremble into thought as o'er them sweeps, plastic and vast, one intellectual breeze, at once the soul of each and God of all." So what is Coleridge's thesis statement? What is he saying about all of this?
I thought perhaps he's saying, what if, like, all of nature were serene, because harps, like, they have that, like a serene connotation, like serene and angelic, and tremble into thought as o'er them sweeps, like, if perhaps, I guess, there were no problems in the world, but I think that might be going in the wrong direction, since this is all about Sarah.
All right. Any other ideas? Kyle?
I almost took as it like with nature and human beings almost as if they could be almost as one, like the Eolian Harp.
Yeah.
Because
So nature and human and everything is a harp,
yes,
right?
because
Who's playing the harp?
nature.
God.
God?
I mean, the whole thing is very.
No, not Gatsby.
It just seems like very religious, and then we haven't gotten there yet. But the next stanza starts talking about
Yes.
God and his religion, and I kind of get the feeling that like maybe he and Sarah kind of like think about religion differently, maybe. But I do think that, and it says soul of each and God of all. So I think God is the one that's playing this harp. That's
Yeah.
like not playing the people, but working with them, and
Yes. So God is the one intellectual breeze
yeah.
that's, caressing the harps like a coy maid, right? Go ahead.
I thought it was kind of important to consider that, like, what the Eolian harp really was, and like why romantic writers were so drawn to it. I found out that a lot of romantic writers were drawn to it because it was controlled with the forces of nature. So that is kind of like another backing up for.
And romantic authors are all into nature, right? Yeah. So, does Sarah like his thesis? We started hinting at it, but in the last stanza, does Sarah like the thesis statement?
No,
How do we know?
because in the next stanza, he kind of gets mad at her.
The first line says, "But thy most serious eye a mild reproof darts, O beloved woman." Right?
She kind of runs away from him, I feel like.
And she gives him a look, right? Can you do the look? What's the look? Oh boy. That was the look, right? Like she gives him the look, right? And he knows instantly this is bad. Drew.
Well, and I think it goes because his thesis is almost like diversely framed harps, kind of this people are connected, just we're a little bit different in this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going on about this very beautiful, elegant night and how she is so beautiful and how this is a very unique experience. But now he's going off to this thing of, well, maybe it's just all the same kind of thing. And I think she's offended. She's like,
Absolutely.
"Oh, but my beauty."
Yeah. And she gets mad at him, maybe not just because she's offended, but there's something else, right? What is the other reason that she gets mad?
I think perhaps he's being too, not clingy, but like, I guess, showing too much affection for her.
Okay, maybe.
Maybe he's showing too much affection for God on their date, and she's kind of mad that he's stealing the show.
Okay, God's...
Maybe.
Wow. I'm mad at God because he's taken all my attention away from me. Emily, any ideas?
Well, when it says, "And biddest me walk humbly with my God,"
Yeah.
that kind of shows how she doesn't. The word "humbly" shows that
Yeah.
she doesn't.
If you all of a sudden say, "I get it now. I understand what God's doing. I understand everything about God," is that humble?
Yeah.
No, right? That's the opposite. You're like, I'm on the same level. I can understand what God's doing. And does Sarah think that's a good thing?
No.
No.
Maybe maybe she took it as him being like conceited, maybe, and thinking that he was like a higher power because he could understand God.
Yeah.
So I feel like she was upset about that.
And she reproves him. She says, "No, you must walk humbly We're not supposed to understand everything about God. And then at the end, he passes the blame off once again. Whose fault is it? Is it his fault?
It's the shapings of the unregenerate mind.
Yes, he has this mind that goes to these places, but in the very, very last couple lines, all right, he says, a sinful and most miserable man, wildered and dark, and gave me to possess peace and this cot and thee, heart-honored maid. Who does he blame it on?
Sarah.
It's her fault, right? Oh, you're so beautiful. I can't help. But like smooth Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Real smooth. So he blames it, passes it back on to Sarah. It's all her fault. She's too beautiful. Too beautiful. All right. That's it for Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the Eolian Harp. Thanks for joining us.
Subscribe.
Like.